The post-processing icon is the furthest icon to the right. And there are actually three different subtask panes. We can do volumetric calculations, we can do uncertainty analysis, and we can actually launch a simple flow simulation. So let's take a look at the static volumetric calculations. This reservoir happens to be a mixed oil and gas reservoir, so I've selected a mixed reservoir, and I've picked up the cleaned up and blocked point set, and it found the associated grid. We're going to use all the data, and we're going to calculate recoverable hydrocarbons, so we're going to calculate all of this information. These parameters here, this is the dissolved oil or gas and oil ratio and the vaporized oil ratio, formation volume factors and recovery factor, very high recovery factor here in this reservoir. And these parameters typically come from your reservoir information. The net to gross, we could have modeled that back in the petrophysical property modeling panel, but in this case here, we're simply going to use constant values that were provided to us by the geologist for each of the intervals in each of the different lithologies. And so it creates one realization that's applied to all of the 250 realizations that we're actually going to create. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. Typically we'd go in and create a new model setup for calculating the water saturation, but let's go ahead and just edit this model and take a look at how the parameters were set up. So I gave it a new model name, and I simply need to step through the wizard. So this is the porosity. There are actually 250 realizations, so remember I'm using 5 lithology models, 50 porosity models in each of the 5 lithology models. Next, I'm going to calculate the water saturation using Leverett J functions created through a capillary pressure based method. This is a simplified method coming out of the Nexus Flow Simulator product. So I need to pick up my associated permeabilities, and again remember that there are 50 permeability models in each of the 5 lithology models. My fluid densities, again, I'm going to get probably from my reservoir engineer. I also have the option of using cutoffs for both porosity and permeability or individually. In this case, I'm not going to do that. Next, I'm going to define my fluid contacts, and in this case I'm using a triangular distribution for both contacts to put a little uncertainty on it, and then you'll notice that I'm going to have 50 realizations, and I would run it and I come out with a report, and I've already run that. So let's take a look at the report. The report can be rather large because of all the information. So let's just uncheck all the items here, and let's just look at a couple of the items, and we'll do it for all data. So notice that I've got my upper and lower contacts. If I click with mouse button 2 and highlight a column, I can create a probability curve. So let's look at the probability curve of the uncertainty on the upper contact, and then let's look at our recoverable stow-up, for example, as a probability curve. Okay, and those are displayed over here on the main desktop, and so let's just auto-arrange the curves and take a look at the realizations over here. So here's the uncertainty on the contact, and if I want to see which realization that comes from, I can see that that's from realization number 4, and I could bring the report back over. If I want to see what realization roughly the P50 is, I can click on this and I see it's realization number 179, and it has this oil water contact and this volume. I can also create a final report on this. I can output this table and export it out as a Excel spreadsheet. I can output the entire table and give it a name. So this is my volumes for my full field model, and I can simply export that and put that out onto my desktop, for example, and use that in any other programs that I want to do some data analysis on.